Hello, 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 hello. What is up, my peoples? Alright, let's see. I gotta get this set up a little. Hello, 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 hello. Thanks for waiting, guys. I appreciate it. I had some shit going on with the Discord and whatnot. Let's see here if I can get this right. Let's see. Bear with me here. Look at that gangster. There he is, Meyer Lansky. Who would have thought the ADL is a public relations front for Meyer Lansky? Not a surprise, is it? Not too big a surprise. Now, wait a second here. Let's get it like that. Okay. Here we go. I guess that's good enough. What's going on, guys? Holla at me in the chat. Tell me how you're feeling. We got two here. Well, that's just terrible. AZL makes me sick. What's going on? What's up with AZL? I ain't about the drama. Tablet, phone, computer, doesn't matter. That's weird. Well, you're here now, Blunt Man. We got 4 watching on my end is what it says. Alright. Just need a second here. Set that up. I'm going to set this up. There we go. Alright, so we left off. On the last one, we were talking about the dope busters and how the ADL stopped the Nation of Islam from getting the dope off their streets. All kind of shit we talked about yesterday. The video's up, so you guys can check that out. We've delayed long enough. I'm gonna jump into it. A couple things I wanted to address. HT9 and Adam Green were talking earlier tonight about Jewish people who are down with calling out the Jews out there who are willing to call people out. For example, we had the actress, what's her name? Natalie Portman, just recently got an award from some Israeli organization. They invited her to come speak, and she said, basically, you can kiss my ass because I don't support Israel, who's shooting little kids in the head and whatnot over there. So she did a brave thing. Well, guess what? They turned on her and called her a Zionist or anti-Semitic. The woman is Jewish. They called her anti-Semitic. I mean, what is up with that? If she's anti-Semitic, then the word absolutely has no meaning now. It's absolutely meaningless. Now, here's a Jewish woman who's willing to call out her own people to a degree. Now, aside from the fact that she's famous, could she be in the movement? I say no, because she's Jewish. Does that mean that we can't give her attaboys and agree with her when she does something or says something that we're in agreement with? I say no, we can pat her on the back and give her attaboys, but I don't see how a Jew could be part of an anti-Jewish movement. It doesn't make sense. And Adam Green was trying to argue that we should call them unofficial members of the GDL. First of all, I don't really consider myself part of the GDL. I can't invite myself. It's up to other people who are already in the group to decide if I'm worthy or not. Personally, I don't like labels. I like to be a free agent. You know what I mean? I like to be free to do other things, and I don't submit to groupthink. I'm a free agent, like I said. I will state when I agree, and I will state when I disagree with whatever the movement's doing. And I disagree on putting a label on Jews who are friendly towards some of the things that we agree with. I don't think we need to call them honorary members or unofficial members, because they're not members, and that's the main thing. Whether or not I'm a member, I'm not a shot caller in the group anyway. So I can only give my opinion, but my opinion would be to not um, consider them members. Now, does that mean we can't work together? Absolutely not. We can work together. So HT9, Handsome Truth's got the right idea with appealing to a broad spectrum of people. I believe that's the right idea too. Now, if there are Arab people in the group, and I have differences of opinion with Arabs on certain things, does that mean, that we can't get together? No, because we agree on this single point, and so let's focus on that. Let's focus on what we agree on, as opposed to what we disagree on. Are you guys following me? Does that make sense? I think we have to learn how to ignore the smaller things we disagree about, which is tough because it's human nature to see only differences, and to forget about the commonalities, the things that we have in common. So if I disagree with 10 things about a person, but they agree with me about working together to call out Jewish supremacy in our country, to call out the banking cabal and the control of Hollywood, this Freemason shit, if they're willing to do that with me, I can overlook the other 9 things so long as they're not deal breakers, so long as they are not working against our interest in that regard. So it's one interest is all I'm worried about. Now, if for example we were to start, if black people were to start a black group, a pro-black group, I could work with them on some things if they agree with us, on the anti-Freemason, the anti-control of our media, anti-banking. We can agree with that, but I would never expect that they would make me a member of their group because it's a pro-black group, and black people are the ones that should be in their group. They could have people that are friendly to them on the fringes, but unless you're black, I don't think you have a say of being in their group. Same thing with a Spanish group or a white group. That's another thing. If there are black people in the GDL who don't like me because I'm white, but they are willing to work with me on this thing about, the anti-Jewish thing, not anti-all Jews, you know what I'm saying, the people that control shit, then I'm okay with it. I don't expect you to you don't have to like me, but we can work together on this one thing. And on the same token, if I belong to some pro-white group and I have issues with black people, then I'm willing to overlook that to work with them for a greater good. So it's a little complicated, and I think that's how we can skirt all this infighting. There's a lot of infighting. People say, oh, this guy's a shill, and that one's this, and this one's that. This guy had this guy on his stream, and I don't like that person, so now I got to throw the baby out with the bathwater and completely break ties with this person because of one thing they did that I didn't like. That's, to me, it's counterproductive. It doesn't make any sense, and you're never going to get a movement together if that's the attitude. So that's my opinion. Like I said, I'm not a shot caller, but if I were to give my opinion, that's what I would think. Let me check the chat. Makes sense to me. Agreed. If they swing 51% on the pendulum, I hear you, but who's to say what 51% is, right? So to me, the most important thing is this country is owned right now, lock, stock, and barrel, by big bankers who own our politicians. They own our country. To me, that's the number one thing. I could agree with only that and disagree with 90% of everything else this person stands for. But if they want to stand shoulder to shoulder with me on this one thing, that's all right with me. I'll accept that. Then, see, like, you take one issue at a time. When we're talking about the Jewish thing, you're an ally. But if we ended up talking about some other things and we disagreed, well, we just don't agree on that. That doesn't mean I have to throw that person out altogether and not work with them on the things we agree on. It sounds complicated, but that's the way. Yeah, everyone's a shill. That's exactly. How are you going to... It's a thin line, however, but when you're talking about what issues? Now, as long as they're not against us or working against us for that one goal, which is freeing ourselves from the shackles of this banking cabal, as long as they're not working against that, I don't care what else they do. Unless they're some kind of pedophile or some shit. That's a deal breaker for me. But there's very little else. If they're a liberal, I disagree with them. But if they're willing to work with me on this, then hey, come on in. If you're a right winger, if you're a left winger, I don't care what label these people take. If you work with me on this one thing, that's all that matters to me. Okay? That's my opinion. I mean, I'm 46 years old, and I've been thinking about these things for some time. Doesn't make me automatically right, but I do have a lot of time in with thinking about these things, a lot of experience, a lot of seeing how other movements have failed. It's too easy if you're willing to say, well, 51% is okay, but 49 isn't. Then it's too easy for someone to come into the group, cause a little chaos, and start shattering the group. People start fracturing off. I don't care what other people think. As long as they're solid with me on this one thing, then I'm good. Raids. I don't see what the point is in going into people's chats and start thumbing their chats down and start just bombarding them with spam. I don't see what's served there. I don't see what's served at all. As a matter of fact, if I were in charge, I would do a different kind of raid. Here's what I would do. And I wouldn't just go into people on the right. I would go after people on the left too. But I would call it a honey raid. And here's my idea. You come in there with a lot of respect. You thumb their videos or their stream up. And you come in with the super chat. If we have 200 and 300 people all jumping and coinciding on one channel, imagine if everybody gave $2 and everybody agreed ahead of time what the one issue that we want them to check out first is. Like, say we said, we want you to do a stream on the USS Liberty, please. And 200 people gave $2 each. And they all said the same thing. Instead of flooding them with contradictory things, USS Liberty, Jews did 9/11, this and that and that. Their head is spinning. Nobody can really get their head around one thing. If you go in there with a single purpose, and if everybody gave $2, they come out with $400 or $500, and we ask nicely, thumb their thing up and say, please do a stream on USS Liberty, we got a much greater chance of convincing them. So that would be my idea. Going in, if I'm running a stream and all these people start flooding my thing and voting it down, and they start calling me a Juther and all, I'm not listening to a goddamn thing you have to say. I'm going to think you're a bunch of fucking assholes, is what I would think. So, I don't understand. It seems childish to me. You guys could do whatever you want to do. This is not my group. I'm just contributing stuff to the group. That's okay. You guys do what you want to do, but I disagree with it wholeheartedly. Tonight, after Truth's stream was over, everybody jumped into these kids' stream. These are kids. They're gamers, right? I don't understand why you would jump into a gamer's stream and start flooding it with negativity. It doesn't make any sense to me. It seems counterproductive to me. If you came in there and everybody gave a couple bucks and said, listen, check out this one thing. Read the ADL, the truth about the ADL. See, look, race is important to me. I see the gooooys in the hood. Race is super important to me. There's a lot of problems. White people are under attack, right? But when I'm in this group and our sole purpose is Jews, that's what I will focus on. As a matter of fact, I want to make a separate group talking about race. So I don't want to distract from what we're trying to do with the Jewish question. I can keep it separated. When people have conflicting interests, it's a fucking bunch of chaos. It's not well, I think it's possible to wake people up to the J pill, or I wouldn't be doing this. It's definitely possible. I have a killer red pill story, how I got red pilled with the Jewish question. Long story short, after 9/11 happened, I called myself a Republican. I was 29 when 9/11 happened. I knew nothing about the world. I knew nothing about politics. I knew nothing about Israel. But all I knew is that I called myself a Republican and that I supported Israel. Israel all the way. And so I was having this, if you remember back in the day, YouTube, you could send long-ass PMs to each other, back and forth. I got in an argument with this guy, a Muslim guy in Egypt, and he lived in Alexandria. We were going back and forth, and I was saying the most vile, horrible things to this guy. You fucking sand nigger, and this and that, we'll fucking kill you, which is really brave for me when I didn't have to fucking fight. And I was saying the worst kind of shit because after 9/11, I wanted to fucking kill them all. That's how I felt. They attacked us. I want to fucking kill all these motherfuckers. That was what was in my heart. So I'm PMing back and forth with this guy saying, oh, we'll fucking destroy Egypt too. You're next. And we're going to fucking kill you. And he came back with all the most patriotic shit you could imagine. Talking about his country, how he would fight and die. And so then I started talking about Israel. I said, yeah, and Israel's on our side too. And we're going to fucking, that's our ally in the Middle East, and we're going to fucking destroy you guys and all this and that. Then he started coming back with fucking PMs this long, like pages and pages of shit. Just, and I didn't even look at it, to be honest with you. I just sent him pages of shit too. But he was reading my shit, little did I know. He came back with all these facts. So I said, no, I'm going to show this motherfucker. I'm going to read everything he said and show him why he's wrong. So I started checking up on Israel. Found out all kind of shit I never knew. He told me about how it got formed, how they took the land, and all this shit. I was getting red-pilled. This was in 2008. And so now here I am realizing that I'm in the wrong. And I have said all this vile shit to him. But he stood his ground. And he's defended his country. And he's hitting me with facts. Now I got two options, is the way I saw it. Is I could not talk to him anymore and just act like nothing happened. Or I could come back and ignore what he said and just keep talking. And keep flooding him with all my spam. My ignorant, lack of knowledge spam. And I felt bad. I felt terrible. So I thought there was a third way. And that was to apologize to the man. To say that he was right. And to ask for him to forgive me, which I didn't expect he would do, for saying the things that I said. Now, this is anonymous. He doesn't know who I am. I could easily just not said anything, but I decided to write a long, heartfelt message to him about how I was wrong and how he showed me all these things that I've never known before, and I apologize from the bottom of my heart. And do you know this man accepted my apology, and he forgave me. The guy fucking forgave me for I was saying horrible shit. The guy forgave me. And I realized right then and there that I needed to do some fucking studying. And it was a life-changing moment. I had an epiphany. This guy red-pilled the shit out of me. Don't you know today we're still friends? It's 10 years later, and I thank him to this day for putting me hip to what he put me to. And I see things in a different light now. So now, going back to what you were saying about it's impossible to red pill people on the JQ. Wrong. I was the most hardened, dyed-in-the-wool fucking Republican, we're going to kill you motherfuckers thing. And the guy changed my mind. Now, that doesn't mean I became a lefty. I'm not a lefty. I fucking can't stand these communist fuckers. Especially the white ones. They hate their own race. They're just a bunch of pieces of shit. And traitors deserve to be dealt with the harshest and first. That's how I feel. Traitors are worse than enemy. Now, I had a lot of learning to do. This makes me open to new possibilities now. So I'm willing to work with people like I wouldn't before because I have been red-pilled, because I've seen the way. Now, if I started a group strictly about race, nobody can join that group except white people, would be my opinion. Because black people have their groups, Jewish people have their groups, Spanish people have their groups, and white people should have their own groups. There's no reason that white people should be afraid to be proud of their own fucking race, to call out the double standards, to stand up for themselves. Doesn't mean that we have to act like, unmitigated racists, and say nigger this and nigger that and fucking mook this and nog that. I don't think anything's gained by that, personally. You know, how I talk in my regular life is aside from that. But I do think white people should stand up for themselves. There's a reason why white people are under attack by these Jews, and it's because of the same thing that they did in Russia. If you guys have studied the Bolshevik Revolution, who did they start killing first? The middle and upper class. And why is that? Because they were in the best position to be able to oppose the revolution, the Bolshevik Revolution. They knew those people had to die first. It's the same thing that's going on in this country. It's a takeover. There's a reason why they're attacking white people. So a lot of people say, well, they're just attacking, conservatives and the right. Yes, but not because of conservatism or because of the Republican Party, but because white people are overwhelmingly conservative. The reason that they're attacking white people is because we're the ones that have the means and the ability, the knowledge, and the willpower to fight them. We are the ones that are well armed. We are the ones that will fight for our country and die for it if we have to. We are the ones that will stand up for our race if we could ever get rid of some of this division in white people. So that's very important to me. That's something I want to do aside from this, because it's only going to cause problems with the GDL thing, which, like I said, I don't consider myself an official member of the GDL. I support what the GDL is doing, and I'm contributing to the GDL. That's the way I see it. But I will tell the GDL this. It's about 99% white, the GDL. So I think the GDL should wake up to the race thing too, right? So I have 3 best friends. My buddy right here, he'll tell you, Blunt Man. I got one is a white guy, he's an Italian. Blunt Man is a Puerto Rican, and the other friend is a half a Jew. He's a white guy, but he puts up the menorah for Hanukkah, and that's it. He hates the same people I do, these banking people too. Not because they're Jewish, but because of what they do. So I don't have conflict with my friends like that. But at the same time, I want to support my race too. I think it's noble to stand up for my fucking race. And it's about goddamn time. This is why white people are under attack, because they are the ones in the best position to fucking defend against this. That's why in my white group, if I were to, in an ideal world, I don't want any degenerates. If you're gay, go find another group. If you're a trans testicle, go find another group. There are groups for that. God bless you. Good luck. I don't have anything against you, but I think that a white group should be people with some type of morals, some type of good judgment, and not just any other white boy, but white boys who are red-pilled. I got red-pilled about race big time, and I don't mean to take up all this time. I'm going to get to the reading, but I think this is important to talk about. When I was 9 years old, my mother put me in a boarding school in northeast Philly, in a boarding school where you lived there and you slept in dormitories 30 deep. The only problem was it was 98% black. So if there were 100 people, out of every 100 people in that school, maybe 5 people were white. Day 1, I put all my things in my locker, and I got everything squared up, found out where my bed is, found out where I put my clothes, and I went out on the playground, 9 years old. I went into the corner of the playground, and I came up to 4 black people, and I said, hey, you guys want to play? Let's hang out. And they said, what, cracker? What, you motherfucking cracker? And they grabbed me by the hair and they beat the fucking shit out of me. I was on the ground trying to cover up. They kicked me, they stomped me, they drug me around by my fucking hair. And that was day 1 of a 4-year bid. I broke loose. My mom had just pulled off maybe half an hour ago. I had to fucking stay in that school for 4 fucking years. For 4 fucking years. Outnumbered. Where white people didn't stay together. They didn't bond together because they were so scared of the punishment that they knew they were going to get. And so I realized that they hated me because I was white. Back then I thought it was because white people had done so many horrible things to blacks and this and that. Today, I realize they just hate white people. That's what it is. And it doesn't matter what you do as a white person to try to prove yourself. Hey, I rap, you know. Hey, I have a black friend. It doesn't fucking matter. The majority of black people are just going to hate you no matter what you do. You're racist from the fucking start. I would love to work together with black people and get together on this JQ, but it's not going to happen. It's a fucking pipe dream. You're naive if you think you're going to do that. So that's the race thing. But aside from that, if any black people want to work with me on the Jewish question, that's fine. I don't care if they hate my fucking guts. They shouldn't care what I think about them. But as long as we're working together on this one thing. Now, if I, who came out of that school at 13 with all kind of hate in my heart, I cannot tell you how much fucking hate I had in my heart when I left that school. It wasn't until I started swinging back that I got a little fucking breathing room. You know what I mean? I still carry a lot of that baggage. When I see my race being attacked, it stirs up some shit in me that I don't like. I don't fucking like it. When I came out of that school, first of all, most of the white people in that school acted like they were black. They tried to blend in, but it didn't help any. It didn't fucking help, because when they tried to, all they did is betray themselves and who they were as white people, and they looked like fucking idiots. The black people look at you like a moron when you try to act black. They got no respect for you. You know who they have respect for? It's the white man who's telling them what I'm telling you now, and say, look, here's where we stand. You know, you don't fucking like me, and I got my problems with you. But I could work together, theoretically, on this other Jewish question. But as far as the race thing, no, I'm standing up for my race. I'm fucking gonna call it like I see it. These white boys, when I came out in 1984, I was 13 years old, 85 rather, I was 13 years old. I moved to another city, and all the white people there were acting black. They're doing the popping and the break dancing, and I'm thinking, don't these fucking people know what those black people that you're imitating will do to you? Don't you fucking know? And I just fucking hated all the white people that acted black, because they were hypnotized by Jewish controlled media, Jewish controlled Hollywood and all that shit, and they were convinced that it's a good thing to betray your own race and to act like something you're not. Well, black people don't respect you when you act like something you're not. They can only respect, and it's a grudging respect, mind you, those people who stay with who they are, and they don't have the fear to tell black people how they feel. Right? Like, I'm not going out of my way to be a racist, but I do have issues, and I think it's best to talk about it. Now, every black person that I've ever gotten even a little close to in my life since then, I made it a policy to not hide how I feel, to let them know out in the fucking open. And every time, you know what I've been told? Hey, I'm glad you told me that, because I would rather deal with someone who's open and honest and upfront than someone who's secretly a racist. Like the lefties, like these scumbag fucking lefty communist fucks who say fuck white people and white people suck and all this bullshit, and meanwhile they live in the whitest neighborhoods, and they know in their mind that they wouldn't want to live around black people. They know instinctively they wouldn't want to live around black people, but they think that if they can kowtow to the black people and act like this fucking ass kisser, oh, I love black people and white people are mean and racist, that the black people will love them somehow more. It's a fucking lie. It's bullshit, and they're fucking morons. And I laugh every time when they move into the inner cities and they open their arms. I'm an open book. I love you, black people. And they go with this ego that they're going to change their minds. That, hey, if I just act like myself and, you know, and open myself to them. No. Maybe there's a few black people who can get along with you and who don't have this hate for white people. But it's not my job to find out what snakes are fucking non-poisonous. I treat all snakes as if they're poisonous because it could cost me my life for being fucking wrong. So, yeah, they only respect strength. And you're weak when you go out of your way to act like, oh, I love black people. You're fucking weak. So that's the race thing. That is separate from this Jewish question. I understand there may be a couple of black people in the GDL. So it's really not even an issue. It's not like it's half black or something. So it's not even really an issue. But I can overlook these things. No matter the baggage I got on my heart, I can overlook some of these things and work with them on a higher level. So it makes me laugh when I'm willing to overlook something that means so much to me. And I see these other people in the GDL and they're like, oh, I don't like this other guy because he had somebody on his stream that I didn't like. So what, you're just going to throw him in the trash can? This other guy who's doing good and waking people up and having an impact on people, you're just going to throw him the fuck out because he had one guy on? People need to overlook and look past some of these things that you don't like about people because you're not going to like everything everyone does. So those are a couple of the red pills that I've gotten. I've gotten red pilled on the money question. Gooooys in the Hood, you shouted me out when I was on your stream in the daytime a couple of days ago. I really thank you for that. I appreciate it because I'm trying to build here and I want to be honest as I can with everybody. So that's the way I feel about race. That's the way I feel about the Jewish question. I respect, yeah, my Discord is the same. Although I don't know if I've set up an account yet. But I just got on for the first time tonight. But this race is under attack in this country. Like no other race is. And it's not just they're coming after conservatives because I don't see black conservatives getting banned. I don't see it. Where is it? It's white conservatives that are getting banned. White people are under attack in this country. And as much as I care about the black question, I'm smart enough to know that it's somebody above them making us both fight. And that's the Jews. And it's not all Jews. Hashtag not all. It's not my dear friend that I've been friends with for 30-something years. And who's only a half a Jew. He doesn't own fucking a stake in J.P. Morgan. Okay? He doesn't sit on the fucking board of directors for the Rockefeller Foundation. Those are the people, when I say Jews, that's who I'm talking about. These are the people who make it their purpose to divide and conquer this country. God forbid if whites and blacks could ever get past these things and work together. It would be a fucking amazing. But I'm not naive, and I don't expect that to happen, but for a couple of people. So, anyway, let's see if I got anything else. Honey raids, I covered that. I don't think we should be going in people's chats and dogging them and thumbing them down because I was once where they are. And I think it's good that they're at least talking about some of the things that we want to talk about. I think you get more flies with honey than you do with shit. It's counterproductive. But it's not for me to say what the GDL does. GDL does what the GDL wants to do. It's not for me to say. The money question is the number one issue for me. But we'll talk about that at another time. All right. Sorry to get so serious on you, but these are serious issues. All right? And I think it's only fair that you guys know where I stand. Okay. Let's jump into the text. Let's find out about this enemy of ours, shall we? Chapter 2 of the ugly truth about the ADL. Alright, here we go. There's Meyer Lansky, the godfather of organized crime. That fucking piece of shit. Let's find out about the Jewish mafia. Because I know every movie we see talks about the Italian mafia. Oh, the Italians. But the Jewish mafia is where the real control is. In 1985, the ADL proudly gave its Torch of Liberty Award to Las Vegas quote-unquote businessman, to Morris Barney Dalitz. The award ceremony, a strictly black tie affair, was given front-page attention in the league's monthly bulletin, which praised Dalitz as a great philanthropist who had donated generously to the ADL over the years. Dalitz's generosity was motivated by a lot more than an impulse to help out a favorite charity. As one of the most important figures in organized crime over a period of 60 years, and as a lifetime right-hand man to organized crime's 20th century chairman of the board, Meyer Lansky, Mo Dalitz was well aware of the fact that the Anti-Defamation League was, from its founding, a powerful secret arm of the National Crime Syndicate. We've established this earlier on in this book, that these people are straight up gangsters and criminals. All right. Without the ADL's undaunted public relations work on behalf of organized crime, the United States would have never been flooded with illegal drugs, and gangsters like Dalitz and Lansky would have long ago been carted off to the penitentiary. Dalitz was one of the kingpins of the prohibition. Excuse me, I'm a little hyped up. Dalitz was one of the kingpins of the prohibition area bootlegging business. He, along with 3 other gangsters, Morris Kleinman, Sam Tucker, and Louis Rothkopf, ran the Cleveland underworld. Their self-described Jewish Navy smuggled rot-gut whiskey across the Great Lakes from Canada into the Midwest United States. And you guys know JFK's dad was working with these people, specifically running across Canada. What was it? Joe Kennedy. On the Canadian side of the lakes, the booze was manufactured by the Bronfman gang, led by Sam and Abe Bronfman, second-generation Romanian immigrants whose father had been brought over to Canada by the B'nai B'rith allied Baron de Hirsch Fund and had set up a string of whorehouses. Sam and Abe used their pure drug company, which was established with the help of the Hudson's Bay Company, to manufacture illegal whiskey during the Canadian Prohibition, 1915 to 1919. When Canada legalized booze and the U.S. instituted its ban a year later, they were all ready to become the major suppliers to the gangsters south of the border. The U.S. government documents from the Prohibition era claim that over 34,000 Americans died of alcohol poisoning drinking the Bronfman brew. Today, Sam Bronfman's son Edgar is a national commissioner of the ADL and the head of its powerful New York appeal. We will pick up the trail of Edgar Bronfman later in our story. Following Prohibition, Mo Dalitz became the undisputed crime boss of Cleveland, expanding his criminal operations, gambling, labor racketeering, money laundering, tax evasion, from Hollywood and Las Vegas to Miami. One of his Miami investments, a night spot called the Frolic Club, was a joint venture with Lansky. When Lansky moved into Cuba to open his first offshore gambling, narcotics, and money laundering haven, Dalitz was brought in as a privileged partner. When Lansky and the other directors of the National Crime Syndicate decided that his longtime partner Benjamin Bugsy Siegel had become a liability and had to be assassinated, it was Dalitz who assumed the lion's share of Siegel's Las Vegas casino interests he still holds today. Now, this book was written in the 90s. Lansky and Siegel had formed the original Murder, Inc., otherwise known as the Meyer and Bugsy Gang. How many of you guys thought that Murder, Inc. was an Italian thing? I did. Look at all these major gangsters. You got Rothstein, you got Bugsy Siegel, you've got Meyer Lansky, all Jews. As a matter of fact, if you want my opinion, the Italians were junior partners to them. And of course, there's a lot of intelligence agencies involved, and agencies of government involved too. It's hard to distinguish between where government ends and gangsters begin. It's all one big sausage party. Lansky and Siegel had formed the original Murder, Inc., otherwise known as the Meyer and Bugsy Gang, to enforce the creation of a national crime syndicate overseeing the Prohibition-era illegal liquor and narcotics traffic. From the very outset, Dalitz had been a member of the National Commission of the Crime Syndicate. Up until Lansky's death in 1983, Dalitz was a regular visitor to the crime boss's Miami Beach condo and was widely presumed by law enforcement officials to be one of the primary heirs to Lansky's crime empire. Mo Dalitz, another Jew. Just 2 years after Lansky's death, Dalitz was publicly surfaced as an ADL philanthropist. That means he gave money to them. He did good things for them. It was a sign of the times. By the beginning of the 1980s decade of greed, drug money, narco dollars, had already replaced petrodollars as the primary source of liquidity to fuel the stock market and real estate speculative bubbles facilitated by the Carter and Reagan administrations' deregulation of the banking and brokerage industries. As the power of drug money grew, so too did the political and financial clout of the ADL. Junk bond swindlers like Ivan Boesky and Michael Milken, and dope bankers like Edmund Safra, not to mention Mo Dalitz, regularly poured millions into the ADL war chest. Wow. In return for this largesse, the ADL publicly branded anyone who challenged the clout of organized crime as a dyed-in-the-wool anti-Semite. The old trick play. You're an anti-Semite. If you point out their racism, you're a racist. If you point out their criminality, you just might be a criminal too. It's projection. Anti-Semite. We've got to stop giving that fucking title, that label, power. As a matter of fact, it's losing its power when Natalie Portman is an anti-Semite, and she's a Jew because all she did was call out Israel about some of the shit they're doing to the Palestinians. When she's an anti-Semite, everybody in the whole fucking world is an anti-Semite, and therefore the word anti-Semite is meaningless. It's like Nazi and racist. It's meaningless. Doesn't matter. It's like the Me Too movement. Hey, I was raped. I was sexually assaulted. We hear it so much over and over. It's meaningless now. Fucking absolutely meaningless. We got to stop giving that word power. Doesn't mean shit. We got to stop kowtowing when somebody calls you an anti-Semite and you say, oh, me? I'm not an anti-Semite. No, I love Jews. You're being a bitch. It's like the black thing. When they call you a racist and you say, oh, no, I love black people. You're a bitch. They got no respect for you. When they call you a racist and you say, hey, I got issues with black people. I got legitimate beefs. Then they say, maybe this guy's kind of solid. It's like Goooooys in the Hood was saying, strength is the only thing that's respected. Strength is all they understand. And these communist fucking Antifa faggots, the only thing they understand is violence. All right? They're the ones that perpetrate violence. It's okay to defend yourself. That is the only answer for us. If the cops are going to stand back and watch them beat us, guess what? You got to get ready. Like those dudes, fucking Based Stick Man and all them. That's the only way. That's the only thing they understand is a punch back in their fucking mouth. Strength is the only thing that's respected in this world. The lionizing of mobster Dalitz was the ADL's way of boasting that their public relations work over a 70-year period has paid off. Gangsters and traitors from the start. Things were not always so easy. The ADL had been founded shortly after the turn of the century as a quote-unquote Jewish defense arm of the B'nai B'rith, the nominally Jewish secret society, sponsored and controlled by the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry and by some of the leading British and American Whaaas families. That means white Anglo-Saxon Protestant families. These were some of the people that were talked about in, what's his name? The guy that wrote Tragedy and Hope, Carroll Quigley. He wrote another book, people don't know, that I pumped in our last stream. It was called the Anglo-American Establishment. And they talk about these WASPs. These WASPs are prominent families, and they work with Jews and whatnot. So, I just want to read that one again because I went off on a tangent. The ADL had been founded shortly after the turn of the century as a Jewish defense arm of the B'nai B'rith, the nominally Jewish secret society sponsored and controlled by the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry and by some of the leading British and American Whaaas families. Blunt man, I'm coming around. You're right about everything coming back to the fucking Masons. B'nai B'rith, Washington, D.C. Representative Simon Wolfe, the man whom Lincoln's Secret Service Chief Lafayette C. Baker had arrested as a Confederate spy and Union blockade runner during the Civil War, was now working closely with Theodore Roosevelt, mobilizing the Jewish American support for the overthrow of the Russian Tsar. Let's see. So you got Jewish communists wanting to overthrow the Tsar. You've got Jewish communists in the United States trying to destabilize during the Civil War. They weren't quite called communists then, but we know what they were. Then you got them working with Theodore Roosevelt. A lot of people talk about Hitler wanted to kill all the Jews. Primarily, he wanted to kill all the communist partisans. It wasn't his fault that 90% of them were Jews, and that 90% of the Jews ran shit in his country. So, it's important to make that link between communism and Judaism. It's an inextricable link. According to Wolfe's 1918 autobiography, he had met secretly with President Roosevelt at his Sagamore Hills estate in New York and had launched an international drive to brand the Tsarist regime as anti-Semitic. So people gave that word power, and it worked. We can't give that word power. After a series of meetings and correspondence with Russia's Prime Minister, Count Sergei Witte, arranged for by Roosevelt, Wolfe had denounced the Russian regime for reneging on its promises to curb anti-Jewish pogroms, after which American Jewish organizations, led from behind the scenes by the B'nai B'rith, began funneling guns to the anti-Tsarist insurrectionists. So that's a long-ass sentence. What he's saying is, according to Wolfe's biography, he met secretly with President Roosevelt at the Sagamore estate, and they decided to brand the Tsar, Tsar Alexander, of the Russian leadership as an anti-Semite. It had nothing to do with nothing. So it got American people to support, though, this Russian Jew communist takeover of Russia. And through the B'nai B'rith, they began funneling guns to the anti-Tsarist insurrectionists. Thus, B'nai B'rith played an active role in the Russian Revolution of 1905. I did not know that. I knew about Jacob Schiff giving $20 million in gold and running it out of Wall Street, but I did not know about B'nai B'rith. This activity would lead to widespread allegations that prominent American Jews were pro-Bolshevik. The Warburg family of Kuhn, Loeb and Company, by the way, they're Max and Paul Warburg. Paul Warburg wrote the Federal Reserve Act. They did fund V.I. Lenin, which was a Jew, and Leon Trotsky, which was a Jew. I'm pretty sure Lenin was a Jew. And father and son Bolshevik agents Julius and Armand Hammer, who helped found the U.S. Communist Party, did actively spread the Bolshevik cause in America and spent a decade in the Soviet Union following the 1917 revolution. These allegations of pro-communist sentiments, while grounded in well-publicized scandalous actions by prominent Jewish families, missed the mark. In fact, the plot to bring down the Tsar and install the Bolsheviks in power in Russia served long-standing British imperial and geopolitical interests of the sort advanced by the Scottish Rite. Britain feared the development of a Eurasian alliance among France, Germany, Russia, Japan, and China based on economic cooperation and facilitated by the building of a transcontinental system of railroads linking the East to the West. Such a transcontinental railroad would render Britain's domination over the seas relatively unimportant. And it's important to know that when they say that Britain was behind all this, they mean via the Rothschilds. See, the Rothschilds don't care about capitalism, about communism. They play both sides to the middle. Their only goal at that time was to found Israel and to take that over and to have their own little fiefdom and control the world eventually from Israel. So they would start this communism versus capitalism thing, and they got everybody killing each other, and amid the chaos, they were able to seize control over Mother Russia. This this Communist Party in the United States, it's a Jewish thing. This, what's his name? Joe McCarthy, who was going after, they painted him as a crazy man in the news. Oh, he's crazy, he sees communists everywhere. The main thing they were opposing was that all these communists tended to be Jews. Again, whether they were communist in Russia, whether it was communist in Germany, communist in the United States, it's overwhelmingly a Jewish thing. So it's a waste of time to talk about communism, really, because it's Judaism. And I think what's his name? The guy leading Britain said the same fucking thing. There's no difference between communism and Judaism. Let's see here. Where am I? On the right here. B'nai B'rith joined in the effort to sink the Tsar for the same reasons the Order joined in the Confederates' secessionist plot. The secessionist plot to destroy the Union 40 years earlier, because B'nai B'rith was an arm of the British Freemasonic treason. And again, that Freemasonic British thing was overwhelmingly Rothschild. In fact, one of the most compelling reasons for British hatred of Russia was the role played by Tsar Alexander II in coming to the aid of Abraham Lincoln during the darkest days of the U.S. Civil War. And that's a cool story a lot of people don't know about. He sent his naval ships to San Francisco, New York, and they had orders that if Britain took over, to attack Britain. In 1863, Tsar Alexander dispatched the powerful Russian Navy to the U.S. ports of New York and San Francisco and threatened to go to war against Britain if the Crown joined the war on the side of the Confederacy. At the same time, the so-called Jewish Bolshevik ties were being targeted, frequently by people with actual anti-Semitic biases. Diligent local police... At the same time, the so-called Jewish Bolshevik ties were being targeted. Diligent local police around the United States were becoming legitimately alarmed at the growing crime problem. New York City Police Commissioner Theodore A. Bingham, in September 1908, penned the article for the prestigious North American Review titled, quote, "Foreign Criminals in New York," unquote. The article detailed the rise of gambling, prostitution, and drugs on New York's Lower East Side, emphasizing the role of Jewish, Italian, and Irish immigrant gangsters in that crime explosion. Today, we've got Antifa. They are no different than the communists of those days. They're trying to sow an us against them mentality. You got left versus right. You got black versus white. You've got woman versus man. You've got, it's insane. It never ends. The divisions. Back then, it was the proletariat versus the bourgeoisie, and they're just dividing the people along any fucking lines they can. The same thing is happening in this country. We are in danger in this country of widespread bloodshed. It's coming. There's something horrible coming in this country because history tells us that's where it leads, by the deaths of millions. Bingham was not alone in his concern about the rise of gangsterism in the Jewish communities of metropolitan New York and beyond. In April 1910, the leading Jewish families of the United States, Germany, France, and Great Britain sent delegates to a quote-unquote Jewish International Convention on the Suppression of the Traffic in Girls and Women in London. Keynote speaker Arthur R. Morrow delivered an alarming report on the involvement of Jewish gangsters in the worldwide white slave trade and in big-time prostitution. Quote, "I wish I had time to tell you all I know, which goes to show that the traffic of Jewesses is almost worldwide. But I must restrict myself to a few ... incidents to prove that an extensive traffic does exist. ... Those ellipses, those dots, mean that there's text in between that's been left out. In 1901, a rabbi came from the Transvaal, that's in South Africa, and told me that the amount of Jewish prostitution and traffic in Johannesburg, Pretoria, Lourenco, Marques, Beira, and Salisbury were appalling. In later years, the same story came from another rabbi regarding Cape Town." Continuing the quote, "In 1903, a Jewish schoolmaster who had spent some time in Egypt said that the traffic by Jews of Jewesses to Alexandria, Cairo, and Port Said was an absolute scandal. There were Greek, Italian, and French prostitutes, but they were far outnumbered by the Jewesses. So they do prey upon their own. They don't care. We have received and have correspondence to show that this awful condition of affairs exists in Calcutta to a large extent." Calcutta is in India, right? "And also all along the free ports of China, from the chief rabbi of Constantinople," which is today, what is it? It's Turkey, the capital of Turkey. Somebody help me out. It used to be Constantinople. It was Byzantium, and now it is... don't worry about it. Where traffic in prostitutes is carried out openly and shamelessly, and where the traffickers have their own synagogue, they say things in Damascus are even worse. That's Syria, unquote. So here you have trafficking of people in the human slave trade all everywhere. It's all Jewish. Overwhelmingly Jewish. It's insane. The meddling. People back then, some people did see it and tried to warn back then. It is the same thing today. No, it's not Ankara. Thank you, though. It's okay. The point is Istanbul. There it is. It's Istanbul. I knew it would come to me. The point is Istanbul, India, South Africa. This is a widespread, worldwide thing. Already in 1909, the leading R Crowd families of New York had established their own Bureau of Social Morals, headed by Rabbi Judah P. Magnus. That's great. When you got the Jews running your own Bureau of Morals, you're fucked. The Bureau hired private detective Abe Schoenfeld, an investigator for John D. Rockefeller Jr., lest anybody think that the Rockefellers are indifferent from this Jewish control or somehow exempt from it. Don't think that. They are junior partners to the Rothschilds. To infiltrate, and this guy, Abe Schoenfeld, was hired by the Bureau of Social Morals, to infiltrate and profile the organized crime structure centered on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. Schoenfeld's mission was hardly that of crime buster. In 1922, Rabbi Magnus took those voluminous files from him, or with him, when he moved to Jerusalem and founded the Hebrew University. To this day, that genealogical chart of organized crime remains a part of the university's most closely guarded archives. It was during this same period of mounting concern over the exposure of Jewish surnamed gangsters that the Anti-Defamation League was founded. So they started getting found out. People started naming the Jew, and they created the ADL, not just in part to that, but also because of a specific case, which was the guy who killed the little white girl. Be right back. This guy, Leo Frank, the Leo Frank case. This guy here was found guilty of killing a white girl. He tried to blame it on a black guy. They somehow released him, and the white boys got a hold of him and lynched his ass. Lynched his ass. So back in the day, when white people found out that others were fucking with our race, they stood up and they fucking lynched people. Today, we do nothing. Don't get me started. As 30 to 35,000 white girls are raped by black men every year in this country, white people just, it only took one back in 1913 for white people to stand up. White people today, don't get me fucking started. I don't even want to go off on a tangent, but it's a fucking goddamn shame how pathetic white people are. Pathetic. When black people are fucked with, they riot and they burn down whole fucking cities. What do? Nothing. We do nothing. So we're a bunch of fucking cowards, soft. And we wonder why our women don't want us. Women only fucking respond to strength. It's a goddamn shame. One of the first targets of the ADL was New York Police Commissioner Bingham, whom the ADL smeared as an anti-Semite for his efforts to quell organized crime on the Lower East Side. Bingham's crime-fighting efforts were by no means targeted exclusively against Jewish gangsters. His chief detective, Lieutenant Joseph Petrosino, was assassinated in March 1909 in Sicily while meeting with Italian police to establish cooperation in probing links between criminal elements and anarchist networks operating in both the United States and Italy. So they got anarchists out there just causing chaos so they can disrupt and take over. Out of chaos comes order, right? That's what they do. That's the MO. In 1901, Petrosino had warned the Secret Service about an imminent assassination attempt against President William McKinley. Petrosino had learned of the plot by infiltrating his agents into the Henry Street Settlement House in New York, a hotbed of British Fabian society and the international anarchist activity. Boy, this book is really throwing a lot of stuff at us all the time. Yeah, I'm saying white people are not pathetic, but the way we lay down, it is pathetic, Riri. It is pathetic. White people are fucking pathetic right now. Can we be strong like we were before? Absolutely. I'm not giving up on my people, but we need to learn to fucking start standing up again. That's why I say that. That's why I have fucking tough love. Because we're just fucking soft today. Okay. So, 1901, Petrosino tried to warn against the assassination against William McKinley. British Fabian Society, they were ones propounding communism. So the Secret Service ignored his warnings and McKinley was assassinated months later, leaving British agent and B'nai B'rith ally Teddy Roosevelt to assume the presidency. Wow. I did not know that about Teddy Roosevelt. I had no idea that he was working with these people. And that he was probably in on it is what this suggestion is here. Because he benefited the most. Cui bono. He did. The nascent, that means just born, or the newfound, ADL, still formerly called the Publicity Committee of B'nai B'rith, had assailed Bingham's crime-fighting efforts for maligning Jews, and eventually succeeded in having him ousted as police commissioner. Let me just double-check here on nascent. N-A-S-C E-N-T, nascent. Just coming into existence and beginning to display signs of future potential. Okay. So, the nascent ADL, still formally called the Publicity Committee of the B'nai B'rith, had assailed Bingham's crime-fighting efforts for maligning Jews. So when you reveal what they're up to, you're an anti-Semite. You're attacking Jews. That's how they flipped the script on you. And eventually succeeded in having him ousted as police commissioner. Look at the power they had over 100 years ago in our country. Organized crime got a big boost as a result. What's more, the effort to establish the links between organized crime, international anarchist circles, and perhaps the Scottish Rite and B'nai B'rith secret societies was stillborn. So the ADL was formed, and they killed in its crib this baby of revealing Jewish crime. The man who founded and headed up the ADL for its first 30 years was Sigmund Livingston, a prominent B'rith Midwest Lodge number 6. Oh, I skipped a line, sorry. Its first 30 years was Sigmund Livingston, a prominent Chicago attorney who had headed up the powerful B'nai B'rith Midwest Lodge number 6. Livingston was the lawyer for the Chicago and Alton Railways, a company owned by William Moore of the prominent Episcopalian family. From the 1890s, the Moore family had forged a business alliance with the J.P. Morgan banking interests. The Moores, with Morgan financing, J.P. Morgan, there they are again, J.P. Morgan banking interests. The Moores, with Morgan financing, founded the National Biscuit Company, now RJR Nabisco, and U.S. Steel Corporation. Somebody was telling me about Nabisco Corporation in the Discord chat tonight. That's kind of ironic. Guy by the name of Ralph. You guys familiar with Ralph? What's up, home guys? Anyway, the U.S. Steel Corporation was also J.P. Morgan. J.P. Morgan goes back to England, and they had ties to Rothschild as well. As a matter of fact, when J.P. Morgan died, it was found that 81% of what we call J.P. Morgan, America's greatest entrepreneur back then, was owned by Rothschild. 81%. And J.P. Morgan only owned 19% of the J.P. Morgan name. So, when you hear J.P. Morgan in this book, think Rothschild. Within 2 generations, members of the Moore family would also control Bankers Trust Company and sit on the board of the International Business Machines Corporation, otherwise known as IBM. The Moore family's sponsorship of Livingston, ADL chairman from 1913 to 1945, was a reflection of the underlying relationship between the leading WASP Freemasonic families and the ADL that continues through to the president. Oh, to the president, not the president. The Moore family's Nabisco and U.S. Steel are on record today as major financial backers of the ADL. Wow. So, ADL is powerful. Say what you want about them. And these are the people who are policing YouTube. These motherfucking criminals are going to fucking put my shit into limited state because I'm exposing them by simply reading a book in the public domain. I read Henry Ford's International Jew, and I get censored by this corrupt organization with all gangsters behind them. It's fucked up, and we need to speak out. We cannot be silent about this shit. Do not let them fucking silence you. Use YouTube, use their tools to fight against them. That's what I'm trying to do. So, they got me fired up when they started trying to censor my shit. That's it. You got a permanent enemy. That's why I'm reading this book today, because the ADL is a bunch of Jewish gangster criminals. They're racists, they're terrorists, they're fucking involved in criminal activity and all the rest. And it's my duty to fucking speak out. I don't care how powerful they are. I don't care. We all gotta die one day. I'm gonna live my life in a fucking meaningful manner. Ironically, Bishop Paul Moore of the same Moore family served for years as the Episcopal Bishop of New York, based at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. Remember that guy from St. John the Divine at the beginning of the last chapter? He was the superior to Canon Edward West. There he is, Edward West. Canon West's promise to get his Jewish friends to take care of Lyndon LaRouche provided crucial evidence that the real power behind the ADL and its organized crime confederates is the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. And so, the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry uses its banking connects. Those are the tools for them. The banking corporations are the tools of the Freemasons, which is overwhelmingly taken over by Rothschild many years ago. During the French Revolution, you had the Jacobins. There was a takeover. Maybe some of you have heard George Washington's letter mentioning the Illuminati, that he was convinced that the Illuminati was had infiltrated the Freemasonry. So the Illuminati had to go undercover, and they infiltrated Freemasonry. So when you hear Freemasonry, think Illuminati. And when you hear Illuminati, think Rothschild. They are the ones behind this shit. They are the number one backers of all this shit. Of Freemasonry, of all the banking corporations, secret services. It's amazing what they've taken over. Intelligence agencies. Think Rothschild. It always comes back to Rothschild. All right, let me take a sec. I'm going to get a sip of water, and I got to use the head. I shall be right back. Give me about 2 or 3 minutes, guys. If you want to take a break, feel free. I'll be right back. Hey, I'm back. Let's see how many we got in there. 12. Okay. Let me check the chat. I got to learn how to check the chat. This is all new to me, so bear with me, guys. Thanks for hanging in here tonight. I've gone way overboard, and I can't help it. Sometimes I go off on a tangent. So let's see what we got in the chat here. Riri says, did you not end up respecting a guy and apologize to the Egyptian guy? Yes, I did. let me see what your point is, Riri. I want to address you. Because you've been nice enough to be in my chat, and I want to hear what you got to say. So what's my opinion on Tommy Robinson? Tommy Robinson, well, he's being handled by, what's his name? The guy from Rebel Media. So it's good that he's waking people up to a certain extent, but he knows he can't call out Zionism. Is he doing that because to save his ass? Is he being pressured? I don't know. But we need to call out Zionism too. So I'm with Shady Anderson. Shady Anderson says, if he wants to call out the Jewish thing, I'm all behind him 100%. But until he does that, he's only half-stepping. And we can't really trust him fully, according to Shady Anderson, because he might be intentionally diverting the energy of a movement when he knows he can't say anything about Jews. And when he was running the EDL, he was told that they can't mention anything about Jews, and they knew that. So he's compromised. Either he's being threatened, or he's being paid, or he doesn't want to, step in it too hard. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Tommy, but we can't expect him, though, I will say, to just stand out there by himself and call out the Jews, because, like I say, one nail that sticks up gets hammered back down. If everybody stood up with him at once and we had a chorus of people calling out the Jews, it would be easier to do. So you got to remember, these fuckers are powerful, and he might not be able to. Maybe he wants to call out the Jews, but he can't say it. It's like Alex Jones. He can't call out the Jews, and he knows he will get smacked back down. I'm not saying that he would if he could, because I don't know. All I know is when you listen to Alex Jones and you hear the term globalist or Chi-Com, and you think Jew instead, then everything Alex Jones makes more sense if when you hear Chi-Com, you just substitute Jew, and it makes sense. So I don't know, brother. Let's see what else we got going on. Hail Ice Wolf. Gooey's in the hood too. Still hanging with me, brother. Thank you. She spoke out about the atrocities going on today, and all Jews don't care but only push Holocaust stuff on us. You're talking about Portman, right? I'm glad she called it out. I really am. I'm glad. Could she be part of an anti-Jewish movement? I don't know. I don't think so. So did you not end up respecting a guy who apologized, the Egyptian guy? Yes, I did. I have a great deal of respect for that fucking guy. And I thank him to this day that he smacked some fucking sense into me. Research is what I'm doing when I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, that quote comes to mind. Research is what I'm doing when I don't know what I'm doing. I like that. We don't all know everything. We got to keep open-minded. Maybe there are better ways to do things that we're not doing. When you read 200 Years Together, you'll see the Tsar being anti-Semitic. Couldn't be further from the truth. I agree, Goku. I'm a little bit red-pilled on that. Rich against poor, white against black, man against woman. Yup, exactly. Division. That's what they want. They want to sow division. So if doing the opposite of what they're doing to us is the answer, then we should be bonding together with other people of different mindsets. Conservative and liberals should be getting together. Black and white should be getting together. But it's so divided now. It's very difficult. The thing to start that is to reach out to people. Like Hanson Truth gave us a link to that black guy's... who was the guy? Is it a black Israelite? If he's red-pilled on Israel and I'm red-pilled on Israel, it doesn't matter what I feel about black people. If he wants to work with me with that, I will work with him, because I know that's the secret, is to not be divided. Once we take care of the Jewish problem, then we can go back to fighting. Handsome Truth, there you are. Rabbi son, you got it. Thanks for coming aboard. Yeah, I went to that guy's that guy's channel after you promoted him, and I left him a nice message trying to extend a hand, an olive branch, that no matter I have problems with black people, he's got problems with white people, no doubt. We could still work together. We really can. And this whole fighting each other shit, it's no good. It's not good for business. So let's see. Handled by Jews, Rabbi's son, yes, definitely. He's got Ezra fucking whatever the fuck his name is. Pied Piper leading him down the wrong path. That could be. He could be intentionally doing it. However, if tomorrow Tommy Robinson somehow came around and started calling out the Jews, I would support him in a heartbeat. Absolutely. But I won't hold my fucking breath, let's say that. I said about the Egyptian guy is you mentioned strength is all people respect, but that wasn't the case there. Yes, actually it was the case, because it took a lot of strength on my part to be able to admit that I was wrong and to humble myself. That takes strength. Strength isn't always just acting like the biggest badass and fucking asserting yourself. Strength is also being honest. That takes a strong man, especially when you have problems with people and you're honest with them. It takes a lot of strength. So I would say that, yeah, strength is what people respect. People also, though, you're right, they respect more than just that. They respect honesty, dignity, and understanding where people are. Like, there are people that aren't coming along with this Jewish question, but I have to remember where I was at a certain point and how fucking retarded I was, and I still came around. So I try to have a little patience with people. I try to extend the olive branch with people and work with them instead of beating them over the head with you're fucking stupid because you don't support what I support. Not everybody can just make that leap. It took me a long time to have an evolution to where I am in my thinking, and I think we need to remember that when we're dealing with people. Okay, let's get back to the text here. Where'd we leave off here? Prohibition. With the ADL's successful drive to oust New York Police Commissioner Bingham, organized crime began to spread its tentacles out into New York City and across the country. By the onset of Prohibition in 1920, the undisputed chief of the New York rackets was Arnold Rothstein, the son of a prominent garment manufacturer and a junior member of the elite Our Crowd. Many of the Our Crowd families, like the Lehmans, had come to New York from the South in the post-Civil War period. They were transplanted Confederates, who capitalized on the power of the British Rothschild family's Wall Street representative, August Belmont, and his buddy of Judah P. Benjamin down in the South, to quickly establish themselves among the city's leading bankers and stockbrokers. It's really easy to come to this country and make it up to the top when you got the fucking financial banking of the Rothschilds. They had participated in the unsuccessful Confederate secessionist plot against the Union. Now, they would take a leading role in the British effort to direct a new opium war against the American people. Anything to divide us, drugs, whatever. Rothstein operated a gambling and prostitution syndicate out of the Metropole, is that right? The Metropole Hotel in Midtown Manhattan, far from the teeming ethnic ghetto of the Lower East Side. He ran the unofficial gambling commission for Tammany Hall boss Timothy Sullivan. He hobnobbed with some of the country's wealthiest legitimate businessmen like Julius Fleischmann, the yeast manufacturer, Joseph Seagram, the Canadian distiller, Harry Sinclair of the Sinclair Oil Company, and Percival H. Hill, head of the American Tobacco Company. In 1919, Rothstein engineered the fixing of the Baseball World Series on behalf of his gambling cronies in what became known as the Chicago Black Sox scandal. completely unrelated tidbit. They call it the World Series because the first series between the two best teams in Major League Baseball was sponsored by a newspaper in New York called The World. And so they called it the World Series because they sponsored it. They got them to put their name on it. Today, everybody thinks that, whoa, I'm world champion. We're world champions. We're champions of the world. No. It was a fucking newspaper. It was called The World. Okay, back to the text. At the behest of Lower East Side gangster Irving Wexler, also known as Waxy Gordon, and Detroit mobster Max Greenberg, Rothstein put up the initial $175,000 to establish the first bootlegging operations of the Prohibition era, servicing the Midwest and the East Coast with British whiskey transported across the Atlantic. So Jewish mafia were running shit. Running ships owned by Rothstein and his partners would smuggle the British whiskey from Long Island Sound into the U.S. Rothstein's British contacts into the U.S. I'm sorry, that was the end of that sentence. Rothstein's British contacts included Winston Churchill, who at the same time headed the Royal Commission in charge of liquor. I believe Churchill's mother was Jewish. Don't quote me on that. In 1921, Rothstein also opened up a British pipeline for smuggling heroin into the United States. Oi, thank you, Mr. Rothstein, via his business agent in China, Jacob Katzenberg. Katzenberg hooked up with the British Opium Cartel, then headed by Lord Keswick of the Hong Kong and Shanghai Banking Corporation, otherwise known as HSBC. Ring a bell? They're fucking dope smugglers. And the Jardine and Matheson Trading Company, and arranged the transit of the illegal drugs through Marseille into New York. The Sassoon Company is hooked up with them too. The Sassoon family, rather. Big-time Jews who are connected with the Rothschild family. Once again, Rothschild are the pinnacle of the infamous triangle. The route, later known as the French Connection, would remain the primary pipeline of heroin into America through the 1960s, on into Vietnam, and then it changed to the Fertile Crescent, or was it the Yellow Crescent, when they were sending it from Vietnam. And after that, it changed to, was it the French Connection? So, running opium. Now, today, it's running through Afghanistan. That's why our military is there. ADL gets a piece of the action. These scumbags who are fucking censoring us. These are drug dealers and fucking gangsters. And they're going to tell us what we can and can't say on YouTube. We need to speak up, guys. The period of Prohibition marked the syndication of organized crime. It also marked the emergence of illegal money as a major source of investment capital in so-called legitimate business. As the proceeds of the billions of dollars in illegal whiskey and dope sales were funneled into such lucrative straight investments, quote-unquote, as the Hollywood motion picture and music industries, the Nevada gambling casinos. Nevada conveniently legalized casino gambling just as Prohibition was coming to an end, and post-Prohibition legal alcohol distilleries. The ADL was on hand to directly reap the benefits. Now let me just talk to Handsome Truth just for a second here. You do what you do your thing, but I would say to you this. You're a white rapper. You've often talked about how you want to do good now because you did so many degrading things. They just mentioned on how the ADL and these gangsters took over and funneled money into the motion picture and the music agencies. Do you think that you would have been into rap had it not been for Jews who are running the motion picture and music industry? What was it that made you get into rap as opposed to white music? The fact that you were surrounded with it coming up as a kid and you naturally fell into it. Should you or should you not? I'm not telling you what to do or what to think, but should you or should you not feel resentment for putting you into that position in the first place. That you're perpetuating this, and I'm not criticizing you. Don't get me wrong. I don't want division or beef. I don't want beef. But when you're wearing Tupac shirts and you got a thing that says thugs, thug life, and all that shit, do you think you would have been doing that if it weren't for these Jewish gangsters brainwashing the goooooy? We always talk about how they degrade our society and make us depraved. That's part of it. And we should think long and hard about what kind of music we like, what kind of movies we buy, and why do we do it. So, I don't know if you heard the first part, but I have my issues with black people. And today, white people have this rap shit forced down their throats. It is the most degrading and lewd shit imaginable. I liked your rap the other day. It was really clever. You could use your skills as a songwriter. It doesn't have to be rap. You obviously have a talent for rhyming and shit like that. So I would say don't let the Jews tell you where to put your efforts and your talents. Turn it into something good, would be my suggestion. Of course, you do whatever you want. It's your life. I'm just making a plea to you, and I'm trying to get people thinking, everyone thinking. So here they are, taking over Hollywood motion picture. They were using it as a front, straight investments, quote unquote. Nevada gambling, casinos, legalized gambling such as prohibition coming to an end, and post-prohibition legal alcohol distilleries. The ADL was on hand to directly reap the benefits. These people have successfully degraded white people's culture down to the lowest common element, and it fucking infuriates me. In 1929, one of Meyer Lansky's New York City crime lieutenants, Frank Erickson, founded the Sterling National Bank. Erickson was a specialist in money laundering. After Lansky replaced Arnold Rothstein, he was assassinated in 1926, and who knows if Lansky had anything to do about it, you know what I'm saying, going boy? As the chairman of the board of the National Crime Syndicate, Erickson had been put into charge of the nationwide bookmaking operations. Erickson handled Lansky's hidden interests in gambling casinos, racetracks, and other businesses around the country. Sterling National Bank served as the mob's quote-unquote factor bank in the New York City Garment Center, doling out high-interest, short-term loans to thousands of small clothing manufacturers to purchase their raw materials. The loans were collateralized by the garment firm's accounts receivable. On paper, it was a benign, barely legal form of loan sharking. In practice, it was the syndicate's foot in the door for taking over the entire garment industry through violence and intimidation. Oh, look at that. It would be a shame if something happens to your business. I think you better pay us some protection money. We'll take care of you. You know what I'm saying? Erickson's relationship with Lansky gave Sterling virtually unchallenged control over the garment center. Jews have always ended up in garment industries. It's weird. In 1934, Theodore H. Silbert went to work for Sterling National Bank. Within a decade of his arrival, Silbert was the bank's chairman, president, and CEO, posts he would retain up until his death in early 1992. Look at the web. Look how far the rabbit hole goes. Silbert was the ADL's man on the scene. He would serve as the ADL's national commissioner, treasurer, and chief fundraiser. The ADL established its bank accounts as Sterling National and, according to IRS records, invested in bank stock. The only other outside investment into which the ADL would ever put its own money would be the American Bank and Trust Company, another New York City bank, which listed ADL National Commissioner and B'nai B'rith International President Philip Klutznick as a director. We saw his picture the other day as one of the managers. Look at this. Banks and trust companies and Hollywood and gangsters all connected with the ADL. This ADL is going to tell us what's right and wrong, going to tell us about what's hateful and what's not, what's racist and what's not. They are going to preach to us. Oh my God, I know I'm a broken record. I just can't get over it. Look at this shit they're up to. ABT would go under when shady Mossad financer David Graver made off with all the bank's deposits and then ostensibly died in a mysterious airplane crash over Mexico. Ostensibly means on the face of it, but not really. So I think what the book is suggesting is that he didn't really die in this plane crash. Graver's so-called death was so suspect that New York State listed him as a co-conspirator in the ABT bank fraud investigation for years. Although Silbert's emergence as the leading figure at Sterling National was part of a campaign to cleanse the bank's public image by replacing a known gangster with a quote-unquote philanthropist and civic-minded banker, Sterling continued to be entangled in shady financial dealings, sometimes leading to high-visibility civil suits. Now, that was a mouthful. Let's just go back and make sure we understand here. So Silbert emerged as the leading figure at Sterling National, and he was trying to cleanse the bank's public image by replacing a known gangster with the so-called philanthropist and civic-minded banker. He's a man of the people, don't you know? So it's just another head fake to the people. The most explosive of these scandals hit in January 1982 when the Italian government filed suit in U.S. District Court in New York City against Sterling, charging it with, quote, constructive trust, conspiracy to defraud, fraud, and breach of fiduciary duty, unquote. The case revolved around Italian banker Michele Sindona's looting of $27 million from the Banca Privata in 1973 to 74. The theft had repercussions across the Atlantic as well. The Franklin National Bank on Long Island, New York, went bust as the result of Sindona's involvement. Sterling National Bank was one of the laundromats through which Sindona washed the stolen cash. And I guarantee there are Vatican connections. Once you mention Italy, you have to mention P2, which is Propaganda 2, right? P2, Propaganda 2. They're connected with the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. They had a guy by the name of Mazzini back in the 1800s who used to be pen pals with another guy by the name of Albert Pike. And look, everything is just tied up with a nice little bow. If you went up to a normie and tried to make all these connections and blew their mind, they would say, just get out of my face, you conspiracy theorists. You're fucking nuts. But it all connects, doesn't it? It's amazing how this shit all connects. So I guarantee you got Vatican and P2 connections with this Italian bank claim here. Not surprisingly, oh, there it is. Not surprisingly, oh my God. Not surprisingly, Sindona would later be exposed as a pivotal figure in the Propaganda 2 Freemasonic Lodge, a secret Italian branch of the Scottish Rite, like your old faithful Uncle Schmeely told you, with strong ties to the mafia. Its antecedent, there he is, Mazzini. Its antecedent, the 19th century Propaganda 1 Lodge, had been founded by Giuseppe Mazzini, the founder of the Sicilian Mafia, a leading member of the First Communist International, and an agent of Britain's Lord Palmerston, the Grand Master of the Scottish Rite. So, you see, I was correct on that. So, you could take my word for it. Mazzini was hooked up with, what's his fucking face? Pike. Some things just never change. I fucking hear you. ADL's shady links to Sterling National Bank. By the way, I don't want you guys to think that I knew all this, because I had no idea about the ADL's connection to all this. It's just another thread in the fabric of which I'm fucking sewing over here. You know what I'm saying? Nobody knows everything, and that's why I'm reading this for the first time. I'm learning with you guys. Believe me, no one knows everything. No one knows even close to everything. So I'll read that again. ADL's shady links to Sterling National Bank went beyond Theodore Silbert. Another longtime director of the bank, and ADL man, Maxwell Robb, is that like Broccoli Robb? Was a business partner of Meyer Lansky in a company called the International House of Pancakes. No, I'm just fucking with you. International Airport Hotel Corporation. The vice chairman of the powerful New York State ADL, Broccoli Robb, weathered the public airing of his Lansky links and went on to be the United States ambassador to Italy during the Reagan administration. Good old Reagan, he smiled and waved so much, didn't he? He had to be a good guy, right? Arnold Burns was another ADL asset on the board of Sterling. Burns' law firm, Burns & Summit, got caught up in a tax evasion scheme in the early 1980s that almost landed both partners in jail. Under a loophole in the federal tax codes written into law, thanks to the Zionist lobby in the U.S. Congress, American investors in Israeli research and development firms could claim their investments as tax write-offs. Well, how convenient. How convenient. This is another reason why leftists who say, we got to tax the rich, tax the rich, tax the rich. All you're going to do is tax the people who are nominally rich, like people that have a few $1,000,000, which isn't shit. You know, guys got a few $1,000,000, they've taxed the fucking rich, where the people who have billions have armies of lawyers. They've got trusts that they can dodge taxes in, and they have loophole after loophole to jump through for their fucking tax write-offs. And if they don't have the loophole, they'll just lobby Congress to fucking write it into law. It's amazing. So yeah, let's tax the rich. That'll get them. Yeah. Fucking people just don't look into things. It pisses me off. Arnold Burns set up a string of tax shelters in the Bahamas, ostensibly, meaning on the face of it, but not really, to fund these Israeli R&D projects. However, the money, minus a hefty fee to Burns and Summit, never reached Israel. It was laundered right back into the U.S., where it could be used by its owners tax-free. So they cleaned that shit up real quick. When the scheme became the subject of a federal grand jury in New York, Burns pointed a finger at some of his cohorts and walked away unscathed. A few months later, Arnold Burns was named Deputy Attorney General of the United States. Oh, Jesus Christ. A post he held throughout most of the Reagan era. Burns's name had been placed before Ronald Reagan by John J. McCloy, a powerhouse in the New York City white Anglo-Saxon Protestant establishment, and the former chairman of Chase Manhattan Bank. So this guy Burns pointed a finger at some of his cohorts. They probably took the fall. He sacrificed a few lower down guys, and he walked untouched. Unreal. Well, should we be surprised? I don't think so. Nor is Sterling National Bank the only ADL bank implicated in the dope trade and organized crime. Leonard Abbas, of Miami, Florida, is another honorary national chairman of the ADL. He is the chairman of City National Bank of Miami. By the way, nominally, Citibank is Chase Manhattan is a Rockefeller Bank. But that's just the name on the bank. It's not always who owns controlling interest. Let's see. He is the chairman of City National Bank of Miami, one of many Florida banks caught laundering big-time drug money. A top aide to Abbas at City National, Alberto Duque, was jailed in the late 1980s for laundering dope dollars. Another senior bank official, Donald Beasley, was hired by Abbas on the basis of his former work for the Nugan Hand Bank in Australia. Oh my God, I remember reading about those. So, I'm going to eat a couple grapes and let you guys' brains catch up on it. It's too much for me to handle too. Just being bombarded with information here. But the book did say earlier last chapter that this is by no means a comprehensive story on what all happened. This is an overview. Believe me, this isn't even really that detailed. It's just giving you an overview of how fucking tied into all this criminal activity the ADL is. The ugly, ugly truth about the ADL. Isn't it crazy? If you don't think they control everything and that is all music, you need to do some research. Hell yeah. That they control the music industry, they control Hollywood, they control the arts and theater, everything having to do with culture they control. They control our financial shit, which if I had my choice and I was dictator for a day, and I only got one move, with all this that I've learned over 10 years, my one move would be to take away the monopoly on the dollar and the ability to lend credit out of thin air and to create interest or to make interest out of thin air. And I would restore the money power back to its rightful place where the American people have at least a chance of having to say so. And I would have the government issue debt-free fiat currency and with no interest. Debt-free. Just like the greenbacks. Anybody familiar with the greenbacks under Abe Lincoln? That's why I want to talk to that guy, Chris Weiner, because he seems to be hip on that too. That's the answer. That's the linchpin. It's not going to be a cure-all, but if you had one shot, you would do well to take away the money power, because that is the root of every fucking thing they do, is the money. Without that, the whole thing comes down. It's like, if you look at the whole thing as a machine, and you had only one chance to pull one pin out, that's the pin that could eventually break down the entire machine. You pull anything else and leave them with the money power, and they will soon have that machine fixed in no time at all. The band Police has a song. Yeah, I brought that up. I showed Joe the other day. He was blown away, man. Usury. I'm glad you brought that up, Truth Bites. A lot of people say, if you ask them what usury was, they would say, well, it's charging interest. It's charging excessive interest on loans. You're getting warm. And then if you said, well, could you revise that? And they would say, well, it's charging excessive interest. Oh, I'm sorry, it's charging interest, any interest at all. Nope, it's not that. I read a book called, by Steven Zarlinga. It was called The Lost Science of Money. And usury, they've changed the meanings of words today to mean different things to put a fucking psyop on people. The meaning of the word usury was any abuse of the financial power, any abuse of what is supposed to be in the public trust, namely debt-free notes. People like who are gold bugs and libertarians say, oh, you could never trust the government to issue our money debt-free and fiat. Fiat money is bad. It's bad. If you back it with gold, then the bankers control the gold and they control the money. If you back it with a basket of currencies, all they do is control the commodities and they control the currency. If you back it with anything, all they have to do is one step back, is control the thing that it's backed by, and then they control money. It is only fiat money that they have no control of other than to control the people in our government. And that would be the job of the American people, to stay vigilant and make sure that we get laws installed that if you fucking usury, if you do any usury, which is any abuse of the public funds, then it's punishable by death. That's the only chance we got, people. You were found to have participated in one or more of the following prohibited actions. I bet I was. If I'm not doing one of those prohibited actions, then I ain't doing shit. Nebula beatniks, that's fine. Is that what it said on your video or what? Discord is focused on maintaining a safe and secure environment. They can kiss my ass. I'm going to commandeer their platform and use it against them for as long as I possibly can. Alright, let's get back up in it. Guys, thanks for being patient with me. I know it's dragging on. Okay. Where did we end? Chase Manhattan Bank. Norris Sterling. The Nugan Hand Bank in Australia. Okay. Nugan Hand went bust in the mid-1980s when one of its founders, Frank Nugan, was found dead in his car, the victim of what police labeled a quote-unquote suicide. And the other partner, former Green Beret and CIA agent Michael Hand, disappeared into thin air with $26 million in bank assets. Nugan Hand had been set up during the final days of the Vietnam War by ex-CIA and Pentagon officers, including Ted Shackley, to launder black market profits into shady intelligence operations through Asia. Ted Shackley was running heroin out of Vietnam. If the 1985 Mo Dalitz Award dinner... Oh, by the way, there's a great book. It's called The Politics of Heroin in Southeast Asia. That talks about all these connects here. If you want to put all that together, that's a great book to read. Maybe I'll do it one of these days. Okay. Black market profits into shady intelligence operations throughout Asia. So, CIA, drugs, nothing new. We had Gary Webb break all that shit in the 80s about the crack coming in, having to do with the Iran-Contra. All the crack and cocaine coming into Arkansas when Clinton was the governor then. All that shit, Mena, Arkansas, that fucking airport, all part of that. Okay? If the 1985 Mo Dalitz Award dinner was a kind of coming out party for the ADL's friends in the National Crime Syndicate, it was by no means the first time the League publicly flaunted its deep ties to the gangsta world. In 1963, as part of an effort to vastly expand its fundraising reach, the ADL appointed Hollywood producer Dory Shary as its national chairman. Never heard of that person. At the time, Shary was the reigning superstar at the Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer studios. Metro, Goldwyn, and Mayer. Echo, echo, echo. Among the Hollywood insiders, however, Shary was known as a lifelong pal of syndicate higher-up Abner Longy Zwillman of New Jersey. Jersey in the house! Zwillman was one of the first of the Prohibition-era bootleggers and Lansky aides to get involved with the Hollywood motion picture industry, an original member of Murder, Inc., and the head of the powerful Reinfeld bootlegging syndicate in New Jersey. Zwillman expanded into labor racketeering during the waning days of Prohibition. By 1930, he had seized control over the Screen Operators Union up and down the East Coast, and parlayed that into shares in some of the big Hollywood studios. At this time, Dory Shary ran an amateur drama group at the YMHA in Newark, New Jersey. Beautiful, glorious Newark. What is the YMHA? Did we go over that? I guess we'll find out. Okay. Childhood friend Zwillman sent Shary out to the West Coast and installed him at MGM. When Zwillman got into trouble with the IRS, I think we're finally reaching the end, guys. I'm tired. In the late 1950s, some of his syndicate associates became convinced that he might betray some of the mob's most closely held financial secrets. On February the 27th, 1959, he was found hanging from a pipe in the basement of his 20-room West Orange, New Jersey mansion. And I'm sure he committed suicide. These people are fucking dirty. I mean dirty. According to FBI reports, Sherry attended the funeral. In the FBI memo citing Sherry's appearance at the Zwillman funeral, the Bureau delivered a kind of eulogy to the mobster, citing an article from the New York World Telegram. The FBI memo read, quote, "Nobody, ... followed so successfully for so long the unapproved or the approved underworld formula for success, from rags to rackets to riches to respectability." This is the FBI praising these fuckers? If the rags to respectability formula were to be applied to organizations, the ADL would be first on the list of success stories. What is wrong with our country when we got the CIA and the FBI working hand in hand with criminals? It's not that they're working with criminals, they are criminals. Wow. What is wrong with our fucking country? Is there any chance to take it back? I don't know, but we have to try. When I'm an old man and I'm laying on my deathbed, if I live that long, and I'm lucky to live that long, I don't want to sit there saying I knew all this shit, but I did nothing. I want to be able to at least tell myself, at least I tried. At least I fucking tried. I don't care if it is the death of me. I'm committed to this. Whatever I can do in whatever capacity. And if I had my way, and I was ever successful at this, and I got a whole bunch of followers, I would set up real-life organizations in each state. I would take a qualified person who I deem to be trustworthy, and I would make them the head of their state. And then that head of the state could make people into regional chapters. And I would fucking start something that could work together, that when the government wants to do something that's against our interest, we fucking get on the phone and we call all our state chapters, and they get in touch with all their regional chapters, and we start bombarding congressmen and governors and senators and everybody the fuck else that's not doing what we want. That's my wet dream. I might be naive, but that's my fucking wet dream. I don't want to just sit here behind a camera online for the rest of my life, just reading books. There's a point to this. There's a purpose to this. And if I'm lucky enough to get enough followers and to live long enough, I want to parlay this into real life results. I might end up one of these guys swinging from a pipe in a basement. But to me, that would be the greatest compliment, because that would mean that I made an impact. No organization should ever rely on one person as the leader, because when that one person is taken out, then the whole thing crumbles. It needs to have sectional autonomy, regional autonomy. That they can't kill us all is the idea. We got to spread power out and organization outward instead of concentrating it all in one basket, because when you don't diversify your portfolio and the fucking stock market goes down, aka your leader is killed, then you're fucked, and you're all fucked, and nobody's ready for it. Nobody can pick up the pieces and move on. That's not the way I would work it if I had my chance. But that's getting very far ahead of myself. I have less than 500 subscribers on YouTube, and I'm dreaming big. I can't help it. I don't come to this without a purpose or without some type of reasonable idea of where I want to go with this. And so, guys, think about these things. Think about opening your own YouTube channel. You have YouTube channels, but start doing some, whatever you can do. Read a book. Share these videos. Do whatever you can. Speak out, even if it's only just you got to open up the webcam and you talk to people. Look at what Handsome Truth does. It's invaluable what he does. The way he gets people together is amazing. He can rap all he wants, and I'm still going to have his back. Doesn't matter to me. I would like to see white people clean up their act and not act out the culture of other races, especially unless look if you were mimicking black people and they had a nice high idea of morality and all that, then I would say absolutely emulate that. But let's not emulate the worst of the worst of the worst. That's all I'm saying. But Handsome Truth, there's no way you can't say he's having an impact. Look at me. I owe it all to Handsome Truth, really, of getting started on this. And I owe the rest to YouTube for trying to censor me, because all they did was strengthen my fucking resolve. Now I have big dreams. I have big fucking desires of what I want to do now. So, they done fucked up. They done started something. So, Jesus is with us, I hope. I hope. Because we're going to need all the help we can get. So, thank you guys for staying here and listening to me. It stayed at a steady 12 the whole time. I appreciate your time. Tomorrow or the next day, wherever. Probably tomorrow because I'm on a fucking roll. We are going to do the ADL and the Opium War against America. Alright? That man on the left is a fucking criminal. Guys, good night. Peace out. I love you guys. And stay strong. Don't ever fucking feel defeated. And just keep on trucking on. Alright. Good night. And good night, Blunt Man. I miss you, brother. We gotta hook up, man. Later, brother. Good night. Say hi to the kids, will you? Alright, bye.